Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Reborn as Gohan in future timeline. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. What If sign-in system in High School DxD will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if Gacha system in Modern Family World? What if Natsu has dual elements? What if Transmigrated in One Piece and becoming a Marine? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 161. In the following time, in order to urge Kampa to practice, Vados asked Gohan to reduce the number of planets destroyed every day, from 50 Death Stars to 20 every day. In this way, there is more time for practice. Kampa complained bitterly, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. What made him miserable was that his sleep time was greatly reduced, and he felt that he had lost his freedom. What made him happy was that his fat body began to shrink, and his body gradually regained its former flexibility. Destroy Death Stars. Practice with Kampa. Learn from Vados. Gohan's daily life was simple and regular. It must be said that Gohan's learning talent was very outstanding. It only took him 2 days to learn the language of the gods. And next, Gohan had to learn the recovery technique, which could also be called the healing technique. But it was different from the divine skills of Kibito and Supreme Kai. It was also different from the recovery technique used by the angels. This was a derivative skill that had mutated. In fact, Gohan was involved in it when he was on Yard Rat. On Yard Rat, this trick was called the recovery technique of Spirito. That is, the recovery technique of Ki. It was one of Pabara's best secret skills. Although it was called the Ki restoration technique, it could restore more than just Ki. In addition to Ki, it could also restore physical strength and heal injuries. This was a skill that could restore a person's state to the peak state in a short period of time. But because of the rush of time in the past, Gohan only learned a little bit and did not learn it thoroughly. He never studied it later. Now that he had time, plus the guidance of Vados, Gohan decided to perfect this skill. For himself, he had super recovery and super self-healing abilities, which were very useful. But more skills are better. And the restoration technique could be used on others, which was a very practical ability. So Gohan decided to learn it. With the foundation of Yardrat Star, Gohan's restoration technique improved rapidly. After a few days, the effect of the restoration technique was no different from the effect of swallowing senzu beans. And gradually, Gohan and Kampa no longer acted together at work. Today, Gohan had the ability to analyze the destruction standards of planets on his own. He could completely stand on his own. Vados joked that this way, Lord Kampa wouldn't be able to hide in the back and slack off all the time. This made Kampa very depressed. Of course, he could slack off. This was how Kampa used to get by. But now he had a target every day, and with Gohan and Vados' supervision, Kampa didn't feel comfortable slacking off too much. All in all, he had made progress. Vados couldn't believe that Kampa's bad habits, which he had developed over tens of millions of years, were fixed so quickly. It's incredible. One day, Gohan suddenly sensed several familiar Ki while working. After some thought, he remembered who the owners of these Ki were. This was the Scion Ki. It was Kale, Caulifla, Kaba, and others whom he had met during the Tournament of Power. Gohan was a little happy and thought, I'm actually near planet Satala? Hey, then I have to go and visit them. Then he immediately locked onto Caulifla's Ki and teleported over. It would be a lie for Gohan to say that he was not curious about the Scion's ancestral planet. Now that he was already nearby, there was no reason not to explore it. At this time, Caulifla was lying on the sofa very comfortably, eating the grapes that Kale fed her, acting like a thug. Since the Tournament of Power, the status of several scions who participated in the battle had greatly improved. Caulifla was no longer a bandit leader like before. Instead, she was regarded as a hero by the kingdom and praised. However, Caulifla, who was used to being a bandit leader, still acted like a thug, and always looked carefree, but she no longer did any robberies. As for planet Sadala, it was too barren before. Now it was much better. Supreme Kaifua came in person and changed it. Improved the environment of planet Sadala. The scions who used to be hungry and cold now had a comfortable life. Every skinny scion was very happy about this. They were grateful for the kindness of Lord Supreme Kai. Caulifla glanced at Kale, who was carefully peeling grapes, and her mind was full of thoughts. Although the Tournament of Power had been over for a while, it still seemed like a dream. Until now, she still couldn't believe that Kale, who had always been weak and shy, could burst out with such power during the Tournament of Power. That emerald green hair, that terrifying power, that invincible body. She was completely different from the girl in front of her. Whenever Caulifla thought of Kale during the Tournament of Power, her pupils would shrink. Retracting her thoughts, Caulifla looked at Kale and grinned. "Hey, Kale, I want to ask you something." Kale looked up at her puzzledly, then quickly lowered her head and whispered, "Big sister, what do you want to ask?" "Can you use that power freely now?" Caulifla asked. "That power?" Kale rolled her eyes and realized what the big sister was talking about. So she shook her head slightly and said, "No." Then she stopped talking. Caulifla expected Kale's answer. That terrifying power was not so easy to control. What's more, once Kale used that power, she would lose control and begin her rampage. It was said that it would also cause damage to her body. This was also what Caulifla didn't want to happen to Kale. Caulifla continued, "I remember that guy named Broly in the 7th universe. He should have the same physique as you, but he seems to have a way to control his own strength. It would be nice if we could communicate with him. If that guy could tell us the method, we would be willing to pay any price. It's a pity that we are separated by a universe and we don't know if we will be able to meet again in the future." "Eh? Kale, what's wrong with your face? Why is it so red? What's going on?" Caulifla said, looking at Kale in shock. "Ah." Kale immediately covered her face. Her palms touched her face and she felt it was burning hot. Kale was confused. Is this a disease? No way. How can a scion be sick? Let me see." Caulifla opened her hands and looked at her face carefully. Then she suddenly burst into laughter. "Ha, Kale, you're not in heat, are you? When I mentioned that guy named Broly, you blushed. Tell me honestly, do you like him? You like that guy called Broly, don't you?" I know." Kale raised her voice and protested loudly, contrary to her usual behavior. And because of the high temperature of her body, a wisp of white-hot air began to emerge from her head. Chapter 162. Kale herself didn't know why, but once she thought of Broly's majestic figure, she became very nervous. Caulifla looked at her and discovered her fun for the day. She joked, "You said no, but look at you, your face is so red that it's about to burn. But then again, I still think that guy named Gohan is more handsome. The long, furry tail behind him is full of wildness, it's so cool." As Caulifla was talking, she held her chin with her hands, and stars appeared in her eyes. She was definitely a little fangirl. Kale disagreed with her but did not refute her. With steam coming out of her head, her mind was blank. Whoosh! At this moment, the space shook. Gohan appeared. Seeing Caulifla and Kale, Gohan raised his hand and greeted them. "Hi, Caulifla and Kale, long time no see." "Ah? Son Gohan?" Caulifla froze for a moment, then woke up in shock. Then she jumped up. She circled around Gohan and poked his arm to confirm that he was real. Gohan didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Caulifla's eyes glowed. "Why are you here?" Aren't you supposed to be in Universe 7? Do you have the ability to travel through the universe? You are awesome. Caulifla's series of questions made Gohan feel uncomfortable. He had expected this black-haired scion to provoke him without thinking, and then he would beat her up. But he didn't expect her to become so enthusiastic, like a little fangirl. Gohan explained awkwardly, because of Lord Kampa, I have been active in your universe recently. Then he looked at Kale, whose face was still red. He asked curiously, what's wrong with Miss Kale? Are you feeling unwell? No, I'm fine, Kale shrank her head. Caulifla on the side put her hands on her hips, laughed, and said, because we just talked about Broly, Kale got shy, and then she became like this. Gohan? He opened his eyes wide and looked at Kale. Sure enough, he found that Kale was even more nervous now. Could it be, this girl likes Broly? Oh my god, this is incredible. If these two are together, what kind of child will they have? Just thinking about it made Gohan excited. Interesting, really interesting. Thinking of this, Gohan also grinned, this is a good thing. Broly has been single for so many years and has always been lonely. Now he has a friend like Miss Kale, I'm sure he will be very happy. Really? Kale looked up. Gohan nodded. Of course, that guy is a loner, but he is kind. Although he doesn't talk much, he is a reliable person. People like him may appear cold on the surface, but they actually really want to make friends, right? Miss Kale, aren't you the same kind of person? Am I right? Kale hesitated and didn't say anything. But Caulifla, who was watching the show on the side, nodded repeatedly, yes, it seems that you know Kale very well. It doesn't seem like you just met her. Haha, right? You are amazing. Caulifla looked at Gohan in admiration. Well, I just know Broly. Gohan said. Didn't Broly come with you? Caulifla asked. He didn't come. I came alone this time. Oh, I see. Caulifla nodded. Hearing that Broly didn't come, Kale was relieved, but she felt a little disappointed. This was an extremely complicated emotion, and she herself didn't understand it. Stay for dinner. I'll call Kaba over as well, Caulifla said carelessly. Without waiting for Gohan's consent, she gave orders and asked her men to prepare food. Not long after, Kaba arrived in a strange vehicle. He jumped off the vehicle, ran briskly towards Gohan, and greeted him enthusiastically. Mr. Gohan, long time no see, how have you been recently? Long time no see, everything goes well, Gohan said with a smile. I couldn't believe it when I heard Caulifla say that you were visiting our planet Satala. I didn't expect it to be true. Didn't Mr. Goku come? Kaba was also impressed by Goku. Because it was Goku who taught them how to transform into Super Saiyans. He was very grateful and regarded Goku as his teacher. He was looking forward to meeting him again. Gohan joked, my dad is busy practicing. I came alone this time. What? Am I not welcome if I come alone? Kaba was shocked, how is that possible? No way, we welcome Mr. Gohan very much. Looking at Kaba's embarrassment, Gohan burst into laughter. Not long after, a table of sumptuous food was ready. A plate of compressed biscuits. A plate of dishes made of unknown plant leaves. Several large pieces of boiled meat that looked half-cooked, of course, no one knew what kind of meat it was. There were also several balls of hard pasta. Several cups of unknown plant juice. Caulifla and others warmly invited Gohan to take a seat. Gohan frowned and looked around. He really had no appetite. In his heart, he had already found out the reason why the Saiyans on planet Satala were so skinny. If they ate like this, they would be skinny. He couldn't help but sigh that the food culture of the Dragon Ball world was really backward. Miserable, really miserable. Looking at the enthusiastic Saiyans, Gohan gritted his teeth and sat down. Mr. Gohan, I am sorry for the poor hospitality, Kaba said. He was the only one among them who could say nice things. This was one of the reasons why Caulifla asked him to come. "Oh, it's really just plain food," Gohan complained in his heart. He laughed and said, "Ha ha, I'm not hungry, you guys eat more." The Scions didn't have any thoughts, so they ate and drank heartily, looking like they were enjoying themselves. It could be seen that even such food was not available to them every day. This was specially prepared to entertain Gohan. Poor Scions. Chapter 163. Mr. Gohan, why don't you eat? Is it not to your liking? Kappa asked enthusiastically while eating. Gohan laughed awkwardly but politely. I'm really not hungry, you guys eat. In order to avoid embarrassment, Gohan picked up the cup of forgiveness-colored juice, frowned, and took a sip. He felt spicy and bitter, and his scalp went numb. Gohan stared with his eyes wide open, shaking his hands, and couldn't believe that this was something a person could drink. His spicy, fishy, bitter. Several flavors mixed together, creating a suffocating feeling that rushed straight to his head. What kind of dark cuisine is this? But Gohan guessed wrong. This was not the juice of any plant at all, but the bile of some animal. It had the effect of refreshing the mind. It was so scary. In fact, after the improvement of Supreme Kai Fua, the resources of planet Satala were no longer so scarce. The main reason was that the food culture was too low level and the cooking skills were too poor. Gohan sat on pins and needles for half an hour. The banquet specially for him was finally over. Several Scions could see that Mr. Gohan was not really hungry. Because Mr. Gohan only drank a mouthful of bile and took a bite of weathered biscuits from beginning to end. He looked uninterested. He was definitely not hungry. They had never thought that others disliked their food because it was too unpalatable. After eating and drinking, Caulifla rubbed her hands and said excitedly, "Gohan, can you teach us martial arts?" Caulifla looked like a fangirl at this time. She was looking forward to it. Gohan's performance in the Tournament of Power was obvious to all. Although they did not see the highlight of Gohan's battle with Jiren, Gohan's record of instantly defeating 2 universes was still vivid. And later, Gohan won the honor of MVP player and was rewarded with Super Dragon Balls to restore those universes that were defeated and erased. Just thinking about it made them know that Gohan's strength was definitely beyond their imagination. What is an MVP player? That is the best player in all participating universes. Hearing Caulifla's words, Kale and Kabba's eyes lit up and they looked eager to try. They had the warlike blood of Scions flowing in their bodies. Although compared with the Scions of planet Vegeta, they were already very gentle and not so irritable, the genes imprinted deep in their bodies could not be changed. Fighting was always the Scions' unchanging melody. Being able to fight against the strong was what they desired. Gohan grinned and laughed, sure. That's great, Caulifla was delighted. Gohan was so easy to talk to. In a deserted desert, 4 people stood on the scorching sand, looking at each other. The surrounding heat waves were rolling, the high temperature burned the air, and the air was almost distorted. The occasional breeze was scorching hot. A wisp of hot wind blew, and the hair of several people swayed slightly. The environment here was harsh, but suitable for fighting. They were all Scions, and it was nothing to move in such an environment. Looking at the 3 people opposite, Gohan raised his hand, still smiling, "You all come together." But what he said was unquestionable. Caulifla, Kale, and Kabba looked at each other. Then, Caulifla said, "Then we will not be polite." Kabba said, "Mr. Gohan, we will not show mercy later." Kale nodded, "Okay." "Come on," Gohan said. Boom! 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 The momentum exploded. Caulifla and the others turned into Super Scions one after another, and golden flames gushed out, and circles of airwaves spread in all directions. The surrounding winds blew back and whistled non-stop. After a little sensing, Gohan smiled and said, "Not bad, your ki has become much stronger." Then he looked at Kale and continued, "Ms. Kale, change into full legendary Super Saiyan form." Kale did not respond, and her face became a little more ferocious. But she still did not turn into the green-haired full legendary Super Saiyan form. Caulifla on the side explained for her, Kale, she can't control that transformation freely yet. I see, Gohan nodded. Seeing that he had no intention of transforming into a Super Saiyan, Caulifla couldn't help but ask, aren't you going to transform? There's no need for that, right? Gohan laughed in response. Damn! They are being underestimated. Caulifla was immediately furious. Damn, you actually underestimate us. Well, let me show you this. She roared, and the ki on her body suddenly exploded. Then, the golden flame wrapped around her body became more dense, and the inverted golden hair showed more textures, and blue lightning appeared, making a crackling sound. Gohan was surprised. He looked at her and said, Super Saiyan 2? What? This is called Super Saiyan 2? Caulifla was stunned. Well, the Saiyans in our universe call your current form Super Saiyan 2. I didn't expect you to break through to this stage so quickly. It's really amazing, Gohan praised generously. The Saiyans first transformed during the Tournament of Power. It was Goku who taught them how to transform at that time. Now, only over a year had passed, and Caulifla had actually broken through from Super Saiyan 1 to Super Saiyan 2. Her talent was still very good. Although in Gohan's memory, she was even more outrageous in the Super, but when the memory was reflected in reality, Gohan had to admit her talent. Gohan took a defensive posture and laughed. Come on, let me see your progress. Snort. HAAA. The three young Saiyans shouted and rushed out at the fastest speed toward Gohan. Gohan was as still as a mountain and responded calmly. Now, even if he did not transform, he had enough strength to deal with the three Saiyans in front of him. Among the three, Caulifla was the strongest and the fastest. She rushed to Gohan first and kicked out with her long right leg instantly. The air was blasted by the whip kick, making a sound of ki explosion. Seeing the long legs that exceeded the speed of sound sweeping ruthlessly, Gohan calmly raised his free arm and protected in front of him. Bang! With a loud bang, Caulifla's right leg was blocked by Gohan's arm. The extremely terrifying force rushed along the slender and powerful long leg to hit Gohan's body. But Caulifla's face soon turned pale. Because she found that an even more terrifying recoil force shook her power away, and her right leg bone was almost torn apart by this force. Damn, bastard! Feeling the severe pain from her right leg, Caulifla's throat felt sweet, and a mouthful of blood spurted out uncontrollably, and her body was also blown away. Caulifla's eyes flashed with deep fear, and an unbelievable thought appeared in her mind. His strength, is the power gap so big? He hasn't even transformed into a Super Saiyan yet. Seeing Caulifla spitting blood and flying backwards as soon as they met, Kale, who was following closely behind her, began to get angry. Big sister. Dare to hurt my sister, I will kill you. The terrifying green ki broke free from the sleeping shackles. Kale instantly lost her mind and her body expanded rapidly. In just a blink of an eye, she changed from a slender female Saiyan to a muscle-exploding fitness fanatic. Her long emerald green hair danced in the wind, and an extremely terrifying ki exploded instantly. Lightning and thunder flashed in the sky, and the entire planet Sadala trembled. Chapter 164. Ms. Kale. Kaba screamed as he was punched away by the violent Kale, his bones almost broken. Kale, who could not distinguish friend from foe, went completely crazy. She stepped through the air and rushed towards Gohan, her face hideous and her eyes pale. Kill! Green ki exploded, and Kale's fist smashed over with a strong wind, making a harsh sound. Gohan frowned slightly, and a ki shield was instantly generated, covering him. At this time, Kale's fist hit the ki shield. Boom! There was a loud bang. Violent green ki flew everywhere. The desert within a mile radius vaporized in an instant. The ground under his feet sank, and a huge pit appeared. Endless smoke rose into the sky, and the strong wind blew back, as if the end of the world was coming. Gohan grinned. Wow, her power is pretty good. Recalling the scene when he fought Broly before, the Saiyan blood in Gohan's body was restless. At this time, Kale had entered the full legendary Super Saiyan form, and was as bloodthirsty and violent as Broly at the time. Although her strength was not as good as Broly's, it could still arouse Gohan's interest. Gohan's smile made Kale irritable. "Ah!" she shouted, and her heavy fists kept hitting Gohan's protective shield, making a bang 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 sound, shaking the ground, and the huge pit under his feet kept getting bigger. A trace of blood was overflowing from the manic pale eyes of Kale, who wanted to tear Gohan into pieces, but she couldn't break through Gohan's defense in a short time. Fists were dense like rain, and green ki kept exploding. Gohan, who was in the center of the ki storm, was unmoved, invincible. Even if he didn't undergo any transformation, he was not something that Kale could shake now. Gohan, who has truly entered the realm of God, is terrifyingly strong even in his normal state. Don't forget that the current Gohan is an existence that cannot be defeated by Kampa, the god of destruction. Not far away, Caulifla turned over and sat up. She raised her hand to wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth and looked at the place where Kale and Gohan fought in shock, her face full of horror. God, so scary. Once Kale goes berserk, she will attack indiscriminately. Her power is incredible. But even so, it is impossible to break Gohan's shield. How strong is he now? On the other side, Kaba covered his chest and smiled bitterly. Their battle is too terrifying. I can't intervene at all. Just the ki aftermath can make me feel uncomfortable. The gap is too big. It's also because I'm too weak. Cough cough, he coughed, and his chest ached slightly. It was because of Kale's punch just now. He secretly vowed to become stronger. Kale suddenly opened her mouth, and a powerful green ki blast suddenly erupted from between her white teeth. Boom! Gohan, who was right in front of her, was attacked head-on and was instantly enveloped by the ki. Between the flashes of strong light, the ki exploded, and the void almost split. The surging ki burst out and directly cut off several mountaintops. A bottomless gully spread out for dozens of miles, with flying sand and rocks and thick smoke. Gohan's protective shield cracked and turned into starlight and dissipated. Seeing this, Kale became more excited and more irritable. She jumped high and pressed down with both hands. A green ki blast fluttered in the wind and instantly expanded into an overwhelming sky. With Kale's action, the huge ki blast fell with a bang. Suddenly, the air in this space was emptied and the space was distorted. With a roar, the ki blast rushed towards Gohan at lightning speed, or it could be said that it attacked the entire Sadala planet. Seeing this, Caulifla and Kaba, who were watching the battle, could not help but change color. If Gohan had dodged, the consequences would not be something they dared to think. Planet Sadala would definitely become a speck of dust in the universe. Kale, who had lost her mind, no longer cared about the consequences. Gohan looked up, and a strong wind blew in his face. The wind blades were like knives, and the ground was shattered, but it could not hurt him at all. He let out a roar, and instead of retreating, he flew into the air and rushed towards the huge ki blast that was getting closer and closer. HAAA! Gohan's right leg suddenly kicked out, blasting towards the sky. Whoosh! The huge ki blast was instantly flattened, twisted, and then reversed upwards, whizzing towards the vast space, bursting out with dazzling light. The strong light raged, covering this galaxy and spreading to the farther space. Hiss! Everyone's eyes stung, and they took a breath of cold air, feeling terrified. At the same time, Gohan appeared behind Kale without knowing when, and chopped Kale's neck with a knife chop. With a dull sound, Kale fell down in midair, lost consciousness instantly, and her body shrank quickly, returning to normal, and then fell from the sky. Kale! Caulifla yelled, leaping into the air and catching Kale's falling body. Kale, Kale, wake up! She shook Kale, trying to wake her up. Gohan flew over. She's fine, she just fainted. In comparison, you're more injured, Gohan said. As he spoke, he raised his hand and waved it. 2 healing spells landed on Kale and Caulifla. The emerald green ki instantly enveloped the two and covered their bodies. Caulifla, who was in it, felt that her body was full and warm and indescribably comfortable. In just a moment, the slightly injured body recovered as before, both physical strength and power returned to the peak state, which was a bit surprising. The 3 landed on the ground. Kaba also flew over. He said, "Mr. Gohan, you are too strong. We can't fight you at all. We really made a fool of ourselves just now." In fact, he was knocked away and injured by Kale's punch before he even made a move. What kind of sparring is this? Looking at Kaba's bitter smile, Gohan hit him with a healing spell and healed his injuries. Facing the curious eyes of several people, Gohan thought for a while and said, "It's nothing. My strength is not innate. I was once very weak, so weak that you could kill me with just one finger. The strength I have now is entirely through my own efforts and persistence. By the way, the physical fitness of the Scions in your 6th universe is much stronger than that of the Scions in our universe. Even though every Scion in our universe is very strong, you don't understand what we have been through to become Super Scions. Every warrior has put in so much effort in trials that you can't even imagine. But you are different. It is so easy for you to transform into a Super Scion. It can be said to be a piece of cake. I just explored the environment of planet Sadala. It is very suitable for Scions to survive. You almost don't need to practice to gain very good strength. This is the power that the Scions of our universe once could not obtain even if they fought for their lives. To be honest, I'm a little envious." Chapter 165. You were weak before? No way. Hearing what Gohan said, Kaba was shocked. He actually said that he could be killed with just one finger. Isn't this just a fantasy? Caulifla and Kale were also confused. It was hard for them to imagine that such a powerful person had such a weak past. Gohan said helplessly, "Don't think that I made up this story to encourage you. Actually, I was really weak before. Moreover, I had experienced many life and death battles when I was 4 or 5 years old and took on the responsibility of saving the planet alone when I was 9 to 10 years old. These are probably things you dare not even imagine." Gohan certainly did not lie. He had experienced various challenges since he was very young. Raditz, Nappa, Vegeta, the Ginyu Force, Frieza, and later the androids. Which one of them was not a near-death experience? Hiss. Gohan's words made the three of them gasp. At the same time, their eyes were full of admiration. Sure enough, the life of every strong man is a legend. This is absolutely true. Caulifla asked excitedly, "Then how did you become so powerful?" After saying that, she realized that she had crossed the line. Many people are very taboo about this kind of thing. Rashly asking others how they became stronger is equivalent to asking about the method of becoming stronger. This is someone else's secret and is very impolite. She quickly continued, Sorry, I shouldn't ask this kind of question if it's inconvenient. You'd better not say it." "It's okay." Gohan shook his head and said, "The potential of us Scions is endless. Whenever we face a life or death situation, we will break through the limit and reach a new peak. My strength comes from my never-ending battles and life and death challenges. I defeat my enemies one after another, and my strength becomes stronger and stronger. But these are not replicable. There is another equally important factor, which is training. Everyone can become stronger through training. For more than 20 years, I have been practicing every day without slacking off." Awesome. Several people were secretly amazed. It's easy to say. But being able to stick to one thing for decades and doing it every day is something admirable. They asked themselves if they had such perseverance. No wonder Mr. Gohan has such terrible power now. This is what he deserves. Gohan smiled and said, "I believe you will become stronger through practice. With your talent, your future is limitless. Maybe you will surpass me, hee." Gohan boasted to them with a smile. This made several people like Gohan more, and they had forgotten the fact that Gohan was very scary in battle. "Ha ha ha, how is that possible?" Kaba raised his hand and touched the back of his head, laughing. "Believe in yourself." Gohan put a hand on Kaba's shoulder, which made Kaba flattered. "You guys should eat more meat, you all look so weak." Well, looking at the tall and strong Gohan in front of him, who was several times his size, Kaba was speechless. Caulifla rolled her eyes at him and said, "Do you want me, a girl, to grow up like you?" "I think I am good the way I am now, right, Kale?" "Yeah, yes. Kale nodded blankly. Kale looked blank now, and it was impossible to imagine that she could be so crazy when she was going berserk. Hahaha, Gohan couldn't help but laugh. It's not impossible to grow up like me. I don't want it. Caulifla put her hands on her hips to show her refusal. Gohan laughed a few times and his face returned to seriousness. He continued, since I promised to guide you in your practice, then I will teach you some practical things, such as how to practice. Oh, okay, thank you, Mr. Gohan. Kaba was extremely surprised. Caulifla jumped up happily and wanted to rush over to hug Gohan, but was dodged by Gohan. Although Kale did not speak or make any movements, her face was also excited. For the desire to become stronger, almost no Saiyan can withstand such temptation. And then, Gohan trained with them one by one. This time he controlled the strength and fought with the three for a long time. Next, Gohan taught them some knowledge about training. In a sense, except for Trunks, Gohan never taught any disciples. He never expected that this time he would cross the barrier of the universe and come to the sixth universe to promote his martial arts. Thinking about it, he felt a sense of accomplishment. While Gohan was living in the sixth universe and experiencing various things, the people of the seventh universe were also living their own lives. Earth. Piccolo and Seven Suri lived in Kami Lookout, accompanying Den while practicing hard every day. Majin Buu lived in the Capsule Corps. The more he stayed, the more he looked like the mascot of the Capsule Corps. Occasionally, he would also play with Trunks' sister, Bra. At the foot of Mount Paozu, Paragus lived a leisurely life in the manor and spent his old age in peace. On Mount Paozu, Goku's family is happy. Son Goten, who was already 4 years old, could already become a Super Saiyan. He acted like a little uncle all day long, taking Sun Tzu and Pan to play little hero games, and punishing evil and eliminating evil everywhere. Sun Tzu and Pan are even more exaggerated. At the age of 3, they can become Super Saiyans, and their strength is beyond imagination. They can completely defeat androids 17 and 18, who once plunged the whole world into nightmares. This put a lot of pressure on Goten, the uncle, and he began to practice secretly. At the age when children of the same age are still playing in the mud and poking shit with sticks, the 3 children of the Sun family can already destroy planets with their hands. It is so terrifying. Goku, Vegeta, and Broly often live on Beerus' destroyer planet, receiving guidance from Whis every day, and their strength increases dramatically every day. Bang bang bang. There were several loud noises from the destroyer planet. It was Goku fighting with Whis. Broly, Vegeta, and Beerus were watching the battle. At this time, Goku's hair was silver and Mercury Ki was flowing all over his body. It was the appearance of opening the perfect Ultra Instinct. But even so, his attack still had no effect on Whis. Whis swam in Goku's attack, agile and elegant, and Goku couldn't even touch the corner of his clothes. Whis laughed as he fought, Mr. Goku, I think you understand that even though you have mastered Ultra Instinct, it doesn't mean you have reached the end. Rather, it should be said that it is the starting point. Even if we both have Ultra Instinct, I'm much stronger than you, and the Grand Priest is far more proficient than me. Goku said happily, so I'm the worst one now, right? Whis grabbed his arm and said with a smile, yes, so you still have a lot of room for improvement. Looking forward to it, right? Goku tried hard to pull back his arm, but it didn't move at all. But he didn't mind. Instead, he became more excited, I'm looking forward to becoming stronger. Chapter 166. Whis also smiled and said, I'm looking forward to it, too. He then released Goku's arm. Goku quickly withdrew his hand, chuckled, and engaged Whis in battle again. On the other side, Broly watched the fight with wide eyes. The more he observed, the more excited he became. Goku's fighting spirit was contagious. The Saiyan blood in Broly's veins surged wildly. He clenched his fists, his body radiating a fierce fighting spirit. Suddenly, he turned his gaze to Vegeta, who was also watching the battle. Feeling Broly's intense, almost beast-like stare, Vegeta couldn't help but get goosebumps. He frowned, glared at Broly, and snorted, "Humph, what are you looking at?" Broly's smile turned slightly wicked. "Come on, fight me." Bring it on, Vegeta replied, his face tense. He knew he was in for a tough battle. Vegeta was well aware of Broly's power. He knew it was inevitable that he'd take a beating. But it was also a great opportunity to test the results of his training. As he thought of the destruction key that Lord Beerus had taught him, Vegeta felt a renewed sense of determination. Even though he'd only grasped a small portion of it, Vegeta believed his fighting ability had reached a new level. He was no longer the same Vegeta as before. He was now Super Vegeta. And then Broly pressed him to the ground and beat him up. The next day, a minor incident occurred during training. The prophecy fish, which had been mostly in the background, had insomnia. Because of its sleeplessness, everyone on Beerus planet was disturbed by the prophecy fish and couldn't train or rest properly. So, they decided to cure its insomnia. Whis pulled out a syringe and gave it a shake. Seeing the thick syringe with its gleaming needle, the prophecy fish was nearly scared to death. It fled in terror, crying out for help. Goku, go ahead, Whis said, pointing to the prophecy fish, whose face had turned pale with fear. Goku rubbed his hands together and dashed toward the prophecy fish. His speed was incredible. Before the prophecy fish could react, Goku's large figure had already loomed over it. Hi! Goku shouted as he stretched out his hands and grabbed the prophecy fish. Ah, gotcha. Ah, you barbarian. Let me go. You're so rude. The prophecy fish writhed and struggled frantically. But how could its small, carrot-like body muster any strength? Goku had it firmly in his grasp, and it couldn't move. Seeing the prophecy fish struggle, Goku licked his lips and threatened, Hey, calm down and don't move, or I'll turn you into grilled fish and eat you. Hearing this, the prophecy fish trembled and didn't dare to move anymore. When Saiyans talk about eating, they aren't joking. The prophecy fish was genuinely terrified. Goku shouted at Whis, Mr. Whis, hurry up. Oh ho ho, on my way. Whis's figure flashed, and he appeared beside Goku in an instant, piercing the prophecy fish with the needle. The insomnia treatment shot was quickly injected into the prophecy fish's body. The next second, the potion took effect, and the prophecy fish fell into a deep sleep. Goku placed the sleeping prophecy fish back into its floating fish tank. Whis put away the syringe and smiled, wow, this potion really is the best cure for insomnia. Vegeta, who had been watching with his arms crossed, commented, it's amazing that a fish can suffer from insomnia. Broly, too, stared with a puzzled expression. Whis smiled and said, yes, it's extremely rare. But on the other hand, this is not a good sign. When the prophecy fish suffers from insomnia, it usually means something bad is going to happen. Ha? What do you mean? Everyone was stunned. Broly asked, is it a sign that something bad is going to happen? Goku excitedly added, is it a new strong enemy? Ah, that's great. Vegeta, Beerus punched Goku on the head and scolded him, idiot, haven't you learned your lesson yet? I want to have a good sleep, so don't cause me any trouble. Ugh, Lord Beerus, that hurt. I'm not causing trouble, really. Goku complained, rubbing his head. Beerus snorted, anyway, all of you should stay calm. Now that Gohan isn't here, I feel like none of you are very reliable. It's really unsettling. Gohan, who was far away in the 6th universe, had no idea that Lord Beerus had given him such high praise behind his back. Whis blinked and continued, but it's not necessarily bad. Maybe nothing will happen. Goku, still rubbing his head, asked, Mr. Whis, when will Gohan come back? I don't know. Whis laughed and glanced at Beerus. Beerus laughed nervously and said nothing. So, what exactly is Gohan doing in the 6th universe? Goku continued to ask. Oh, I don't know either. Whis covered his mouth and chuckled. Beerus punched Goku again and said coldly, boy, focus on your training and stop asking so many questions. He would never admit that Gohan was sent to the 6th universe for a vacation because of his arrogance. In another part of the 7th universe, another story was unfolding. This space was filled with dense meteorites, and among them was what looked like a planet. Located at the center of this desolate star field, the dense meteorites served as a natural barrier. Anyone unfamiliar with interstellar routes could easily get lost among the meteorites and never find the planet hidden within. The Heaters had thoroughly developed this planet, turning it into their fortress. Deep within this fortress sat Elec, the leader of the Heater family. His two younger brothers and younger sister sat on either side of him, their bodies slightly smaller than his. As the eldest of the four Heater siblings, Elec was also the leader. The family had aqua blue skin, dreadlocked hair, and wore red tops with gold trim and loose white trousers. As the eldest, Elec wore a bright red robe and looked down at his younger siblings. The second eldest was named Oil. He was the fattest and the only one among them with a straightforward personality. He never hid anything and always spoke his mind. The third was a girl named Maki. She had a petite, cute appearance, but looks could be deceiving. Maki was ruthless and not to be underestimated. The youngest was Gas. He was short, with a bone chain on his forehead, and his ki was cold. Among the four siblings, Gas had the strangest personality. But despite his odd nature, he was the one who trusted and protected his brother Elec the most. He had never disobeyed Elec since childhood and strictly carried out all of Elec's orders. He regarded Elec as a symbol of faith and the hope for their family's revival. Chapter 167. On the surface, the Heater family is engaged in legitimate businesses such as planetary revival and accepting bounties. But secretly, they cooperate with the Emperor of the Universe, Frisia, providing intelligence and engaging in shady activities to amass huge profits. After Frisia was killed, the ambitious Elec sought to take his place, rule the seventh universe, and become the overlord of the cosmos. Without Frisia's constraints, the Heater family developed smoothly. In recent years, they've conducted their business more unscrupulously, accumulating vast wealth. Now, they could be considered the most powerful force in the northern galaxy. In the Heater family castle, Elec touched the bone chain tied around his waist, looked up at his brothers and sister, and his expression turned grim. He frowned and said in a deep voice, "The situation is changed. We need to scale back our operations and temporarily halt most of our business." His siblings remained silent. They had thought they could dominate the universe after Frisia's death. But just now, Cooler had sent his envoys to their family. It was only then that they learned Frisia had a brother. A brother who was said to be more powerful and terrifying than Frisia. Damn it! Elec continued, "Our business hasn't expanded into the South Galaxy yet. The intelligence there is relatively outdated, so there's no information about Cooler. But we can't afford to be careless." Maki thought for a moment and asked, "Elec, how do we know that guy was telling the truth? What if he's deceiving us?" Elec forced a smile and said, It's better to be safe than sorry. Being cautious won't hurt. I'm not a fool like Frisia or the Scions who have power but lack the brains to use it. It's better to believe it than to ignore it." Elec glanced at the stoic Gas and continued, "Gas, do you have any other thoughts?" Although Gas didn't speak, the siblings had been together for decades and knew each other too well. Elec could easily read his siblings' emotions through their expressions. Gas responded calmly, "Frisia was nothing special. I've surpassed him. I definitely won't lose to his brother." He was filled with strong self-confidence. Gas, you are the most talented among us and the one with the greatest potential to surpass Frisia. While your current strength has surpassed Frisia's back then, many years have passed. Who can guarantee that this so-called brother of Frisia hasn't become stronger too? So, I believe it's better to proceed with caution. Okay, I understand. Gas nodded at Elec's words, though whether he agreed with Elec's assessment was known only to him. Maki rubbed her chin and said, "Putting this aside, I seem to recall hearing about Namek somewhere." "Oh? Really?" Elec was intrigued. "Yes, I've heard of it, but I can't quite place it at the moment." Maki frowned, deep in thought. Gas added, "The Namekians are a race that once lived on planet Serial." Yes, that's right. They lived alongside the Serialians, those green-skinned people." Maki's vague memory became clearer after Gas's reminder. The second eldest, Oil, chimed in, aren't they extinct now? No, I remember now, Elec said, shaking his head. There's an old man named Monaito who's still alive. Monaito? Yes, he should be living with Granola now. So, Monaito is the only Namekian we know who's still alive. I wonder what Cooler wants with Namek. Is there some secret on Namek? Maybe we should try to uncover that secret from Monaito. In that case, we need to find Granola first. Granola! Maki murmured, a green-haired young man suddenly appearing in her mind. He is the only survivor of the Cerealian race. The other Cerealians and Namekians were massacred over 50 years ago. The culprits? None other than the Heater family. Back then, the Heater family coveted planet Cereal. They conspired with Frisia to eliminate the native inhabitants and then sold the planet to displaced people at a high price. It was the Heater family that provided the intelligence. And it was the Scions, serving under Frisia's army, who carried out the massacre. The Scions transformed into giant black apes and slaughtered the Cerealians and Namekians, cleansing planet Cereal. Because of Bardock, Monaito and the young Granola were the only survivors of planet Cereal. It's worth noting that Elec managed to swindle Frisia by giving him only 1/10 of the profit. And the deception remained undiscovered. Because of this, Elec always considered Frisia to be a brute with strong limbs but a simple mind, much like the Scions who knew only how to fight. Thinking of Granola, Maki snorted coldly, "Humph, that annoying guy." Although the last Cerealian survivor now worked under their command, he was too arrogant. While he performed his tasks efficiently, he often looked at the four siblings with a cold gaze. He was the type who performed well but had a terrible attitude. As Granola grew stronger, the pressure on the Heater family also increased. They feared that one day Granola might discover the truth about the destruction of his people. Elec said, "Humph, Granola is indeed becoming more difficult to manage, and he's growing stronger by the day. I wonder if we can use this sudden appearance of Cooler to deal with him." "Ha? Elec, do you have a plan? How will we do it?" Maki asked excitedly, her eyes widening as she looked at her eldest brother. The chubby Oil was also surprised. Gas, however, crossed his arms and remained expressionless, offering no opinion. Elec smiled coldly. "Hee, let me think about it and come up with a plan." Elec was very confident in his scheming. He believed he could manipulate both Cooler and Granola to his advantage. "Hee, we'll be waiting for your good news, big brother." Maki's face lit up with a smile, making her look adorable. Elec laughed and said, "This matter requires careful consideration. There are other things to attend to first. Maki, you and Oil head to planet Cereal, find Monaito, and try to get information about Namek from him. Remember, now is not the time to clash with Granola, so be cautious. And don't kill the Namekian." "Okay, got it." Maki nodded and left with Oil. For those who don't read the Dragon Ball Super manga, this Cereal arc is canon, but in this fanfic, it will unfold differently. Chapter 168. Planet Cereal. A young man with wavy green hair stood atop a mountain. From here, he could see the remnants of once prosperous cities, now reduced to ruins with broken walls and debris scattered everywhere. This young man was the last remaining Cerealian, the sole survivor, Granola. One of the two survivors from that tragic time. Granola was tall and strong, with a well-proportioned physique that immediately marked him as a skilled warrior. His green wavy hair, green eyebrows, and green eyes, paired with his wheat-colored skin and strikingly handsome features, made him stand out. He wore a brown eye patch over his right eye, his most trusted companion, a powerful AI and combat assistant that had been of great help to him. The Cerealian people possessed a unique talent. The ability to enhance their right eye, which improved their shooting accuracy and allowed them to see through an enemy's weaknesses. They were exceptional snipers. But now, of this once great race, only Granola remained. Granola's eagle-like eyes scanned the distant ruins of the city. His enhanced vision allowed him to clearly see the enormous footprints left by the Scion great apes that had invaded long ago. Further away, he saw the semicircular key shields that protected small, vibrant cities. These were the homes of the current inhabitants of planet Cereal, the Sugarians. Over 50 years ago, the Heater family had revitalized planet Cereal, which had been destroyed by Frisia's army, and then sold it at a high price to the wandering Sugarians. The Sugarians had since rebuilt and now lived in these shielded towns. Planet Cereal was no longer the same place it had been in the past. Alas! Granola was silent for a few seconds, exhaled deeply, then resolutely turned away and walked into the dense forested mountains. A voice suddenly sounded in his mind. It was Oatmeal, the AI integrated into the eye patch over his right eye. "Granola, why don't you live with the Sugarians?" Oatmeal asked. Granola replied calmly, "That city was built by the Heaters for the Sugarians. It's not a place for me to live." "But, isn't it still part of planet Cereal?" Oatmeal asked, puzzled. "That was 50 years ago," Granola sighed. "Since the Heater family sold planet Cereal to the Sugarians, it has belonged to them. That's why my grandfather and I live in these remote mountains." "I see. So, to coexist, you maintain the necessary distance, right? More or less. Besides, from this mountain, I can see the city that Frisia's army destroyed. It reminds me of what they did here. It keeps me from forgetting their crimes and constantly motivates me to become stronger, so I can protect what matters to me." Soon, Granola reached his home and pushed the door open. He smiled and called out, "Grandpa, I'm back." Inside, the elderly Monaito was sitting in a chair, watching TV. The show was one produced by the Sugarians. Hearing the door open and Granola's voice, Monaito smiled and slowly turned his head, his movements labored. "Granola, it's good to have you back." Granola's eyes flickered with a sadness that was hard to notice. "Grandpa, he's grown so old. Even turning his head is difficult now." Monaito reached for his cane, trying to stand up and walk toward Granola. Granola's eyes widened, and he quickly stepped forward to help him. "Grandpa, let me help you." "Oh, I'm really old and useless. I can't even move properly anymore," Monaito sighed. Granola supported Monaito, but his eyes drifted toward the bookshelf. In the center of it was an orange dragon ball, about the size of a ping-pong ball. "Grandpa, if we could find the other two-star Dragon Ball, you could become young again, right?" Granola asked after a moment's thought. Hearing this, Monaito grew stern. "Granola, I won't allow you to use the Dragon Balls for something like that," he exclaimed. "How can this be reckless? Besides, we can't make any wishes unless we find the other Dragon Ball, right?" Granola released Monaito and walked over to the bookshelf, picking up the orange Dragon Ball and holding it in his hand. Monaito sighed, "Yes, but it hasn't been found in decades. It's probably lost." Granola looked at the small sphere in his hand and said, "It's really hard to find such a small object on such a large planet." Monaito slowly approached with his cane and said, "Granola, listen to me. Dragon Balls were originally ceremonial tools used to honor Namekian warriors, not to fulfill personal desires. So don't think about using them to restore my youth." Granola remained silent. "But to me, Grandpa is the greatest warrior." After a pause, Granola asked, "Grandpa, do you think there are other Namekians on other planets?" "Of course there are," Monaito replied. "The Namekians lived on planet Namek, but for certain reasons, we left and settled on planet Cereal. I never imagined that things would turn out like this. There used to be dozens of Namekians living here, but now I'm the only one left." As he recalled the past, and the brutal deaths of his Namekian kin, Monaito's cloudy eyes glimmered with a strange light. "We Namekians are a race that migrated to this universe from another world. That's why we're different from the mortals in this universe, and we possess many strange forms of magic. Creating the Dragon Balls that grant wishes is one such magic. When I die, it will all end, and the Dragon Balls will disappear." Monaito's voice was calm as he spoke these words. But Granola felt a deep sadness. "How can this be? I must find the other Dragon Ball, make a wish to restore my grandfather's youth, and return this planet to its former glory. I must." Monaito frowned and said, "I told you not to use the Dragon Balls recklessly. If you make such a wish, the kind-hearted Sagarians will be driven out. Grandpa, even now, you're thinking of others. You're so kind. But if you think about others, who will think about you? Who will think about me? I just want you to be young again. I want planet cereal to return to its old self. At worst, I'll save up and find a suitable planet for the Sagarians to live on. Monaito sighed. Granola, what do you hope to gain from this? It will only lead to more suffering. Put the Dragon Ball back and forget about it. The most important thing is to enjoy the life you have now. Grandpa, okay, I get it. Granola looked at the Dragon Ball in his hand and reluctantly placed it back in its original spot. Suddenly, he turned his head sharply toward the door. His eyes flashed with intensity as he shouted, "Who's there? Come out!" Chapter 169. With a roar, Granola held his right palm in the air and pulled it back, creating a suction force that yanked the door open. Behind it stood two startled figures. Seeing who was outside, Granola's eyebrows knit together in irritation. Maki, Oil, when did you two get here? Granola asked coldly. He didn't like these two, or rather, he didn't like anyone from the Heater family. Ah, we just arrived, Maki replied. You really scared me. Is this how you treat guests? You're so rude, Maki added, rolling her eyes with a pout. Poof. Granola snorted and looked at Oil. Oil, is what she said true? Maki, what are you doing? Oil began, but suddenly felt a sharp pain in his side. Looking down, he saw Maki twisting the soft flesh on his waist. Hee, it's nothing, just testing your patience, Maki laughed, her smile as radiant as a flower. She then turned her gaze back to Granola. Granola, could you stop glaring at us like that? Oil and I were on a mission and happened to pass by Planet Cereal. I thought we'd drop in to visit you. Who would have thought that as soon as we reached the door, you'd fling it open with a loud shout and scare us? What, don't you welcome your old friends? As she spoke, her eyes glanced at the one-star Dragon Ball beside Granola. Hee, Mr. Monaito, it's been a long time, she added with a smile, greeting Monaito. Without waiting for a response from the elderly Namekian or Granola, Maki pulled out a bottle of liquid. This is the freshest, highest quality drinking water. Please accept it, she said, bowing politely, her demeanor humble and sweet. She then walked into the house and carefully placed the bottle on the table. On Planet Cereal, water was scarce. Precious enough to be considered a gift. It fetched a high price in the trading markets. Monaito had to acknowledge her gesture. Thank you, young lady. Granola, however, continued to stare coldly at Maki, suspicious of her intentions. What were the Heater siblings really here for? He didn't believe for a second that they were just passing by for a visit. Did they think he was naive? Their relationship wasn't exactly friendly. TSK, Granola, your stare is really unsettling. Okay, if you're going to be so inhospitable, I'll leave, Maki said. Poof. Granola snorted again, remaining silent. Old man Monaito sighed and said, Hey, Granola, they're guests. You should try to curb that temper of yours. He then turned to Maki and added, Miss Maki, I apologize. Hee, it's fine. Granola's always been like this. I know him well, after all, we go way back, Maki laughed. Old man, I'm just relieved to see you're still doing well. She then turned and walked to the door, waving goodbye. Since Granola doesn't want us here, we'll be on our way. Are you really leaving? Won't you stay a little longer? Monaito asked, surprised. No, I wouldn't want to stay where I'm not wanted. Goodbye, Maki said with a smile, quickly pulling Oil along with her. She practically dragged her chubby brother as they left in a hurry. It wasn't until they were aboard their spaceship, safely away from Planet Cereal, that Maki contacted Elec. Hey, Elec, listen to this. I think I figured out why Cooler is after Namek. It's because Namek has something magical called Dragon Balls. If you collect 2 Dragon Balls, you can make a wish. Granola mentioned that if you gather all the Dragon Balls, Monaito could be rejuvenated, and even Planet Cereal could be restored to its former state. It sounds like you can make any wish you want. Isn't that incredible? On the other side of the communication, Alex's excited voice boomed, "Mackie, are you sure?" "Of course. Oil and I heard everything Granola and Monaito said from outside the house, and I even saw the Dragon Ball with my own eyes. It's an orange orb, one of which is in Granola's home. The other one is somewhere on Planet Cereal, but it hasn't been found yet. It could be tough to locate." Alec chuckled, Mackie, you've done an excellent job this time. You're truly my most reliable sister. This is a huge breakthrough. Don't leave Planet Cereal just yet. Your next mission is to gather the 2 Dragon Balls from the planet. First, we need to borrow the one from Granola's house. Alec, that annoying guy Granola is on Planet Cereal right now. It won't be easy for us to act, right? Don't worry. I'll contact him immediately and give him a new mission, a mission involving the Science and Frisia. With his personality, he'll definitely leave Planet Cereal in a hurry to take on this mission. Alec grinned, his tone sinister. Is there really such a mission? Mackie asked. My dear sister, whether there's a mission or not, and what kind of mission it is, isn't it up to our Heater family to decide? Just wait for my good news. You're truly a wise and brave leader, big brother, Mackie flattered him, perfectly timing her praise. Elsewhere in the 7th universe, Cooler had already obtained the location of New Namek from the ultimate intelligence expert, Zuno. Without wasting any time, Cooler boarded his spaceship and set off for New Namek. There was no time to lose in his quest for power. Upon arrival, the Namekians, noticing Cooler's striking resemblance to Frisia, were unwilling to hand over the Dragon Balls, no matter what. Cooler's men were furious, ready to punish these defiant Namekians. But before they could act, Cooler stopped them. Cooler addressed the Namekians, "Even though I am Frisia's brother, I am not unreasonable. I only wish to borrow your Dragon Balls to make a request. Don't be foolish and force New Namek to suffer the same fate as before. If you have any conditions, just name them. I've already told you, many times, that I'm a reasonable being. Let's treat this as a business transaction. I'll pay the appropriate price to purchase this wish. What do you say?" The great elder of the Namekians scrutinized Cooler, finding it hard to believe that he could be so reasonable. Had this villain turned over a new leaf? Or was Cooler truly different from Frisia, perhaps even a kinder being? After pondering for a moment, the great elder decided to ask Cooler what his wish was. After all, the Dragon Balls of Namek required a wish to be spoken in the dragon language. The great elder said, "We Namekians are fond of making friends, but we don't engage in business. You might as well tell us your wish, and we'll consider it." "Very well. I want to create a dimension that can control the flow of time, similar to the hyperbolic time chamber in the Kami Temple on Earth." "Is that possible?" Cooler asked, crossing his arms and speaking calmly. Chapter 170. What kind of wish is this? Is that really all? The great elder of Namek was stunned by Cooler's request. It was far from what he had expected, no talk of immortality, domination of the universe, or other grandiose ambitions that Cooler might have sought. Seeing the great elder's prolonged silence, Cooler grew irritated, assuming that his wish was being refused. "Bastard! I've sacrificed my life for the 7th universe, fought for its survival, and now even this small wish can't be granted? If that's the case, there's no reason for Namek to continue existing." He fumed, his anger manifesting in a violent wind that shook the entire planet. The atmosphere became suffocating with the oppressive force Cooler exerted, and the Namekians watched in horror, their eyes wide with fear. Cooler raised his hand toward the sky, and a golden ki blast formed, swirling ominously in the wind. The sheer terror it exuded was overwhelming. Wait a minute. "I can grant your wish," the great elder hurriedly shouted, sweat rolling down his forehead. "Oh, really?" Cooler grinned as the massive golden ki blast dissipated, and the fierce winds abruptly ceased. Everything returned to calm. Very well, let's gather the Dragon Balls and summon the dragon, Cooler instructed. Having witnessed Whis summon the Super Dragon Balls before, Cooler assumed the process for Namex Dragon Balls would be similar. Seeing Cooler's understanding, the Great Elder looked at him thoughtfully. He didn't dare entertain any other ideas and began to follow Cooler's instructions. Universe 6, Planet Sadala. Gohan had spent half a day on Planet Sadala, teaching various training techniques to Caulifla, Kaba, Kale, and the others. Afterward, he paid a visit to the king of Planet Sadala. Upon seeing the earrings Gohan wore, King Sadala immediately knelt with a thud, exclaiming, "Greetings, Lord God of Destruction." His reaction shocked Caulifla and the others who had followed Gohan. Lord God of Destruction? Caulifla took 2 steps back, staring at Gohan in disbelief, her eyes wide open. When did Gohan become a god of destruction? This was too surreal, something they had never even imagined. But King Sadala was knowledgeable. He recognized the earring on Gohan's ear, signifying acknowledgement by the god of destruction. It was only then that he realized Gohan's true identity. Gohan quickly said, "King Sadala, please stand up." "Thank you, Lord God of Destruction." King Sadala thanked him loudly, then cautiously rose to his feet. Gohan laughed and explained, "Ha, I'm not actually the god of destruction. I'm just learning from Lord Beerus. There's no need to be so formal." "No, I wouldn't dare. You're as good as a god of destruction." King Sadala remained wary, not daring to be presumptuous. It was just polite talk, who would take it lightly? King Sadala then hosted Gohan with the highest standards of hospitality. Of course, Gohan wasn't particularly interested in their food, nor did he enjoy it. Before leaving, Gohan mentioned that once he returned to the 7th universe, he could invite Kale, Caulifla, and the others to visit. This made Caulifla's eyes light up with excitement. Gohan also urged them to continue their training and promised that he would test their progress the next time they met. This both excited and nervous them. Gohan was incredibly powerful, and now with the status of a god of destruction, the pressure on them to improve had significantly increased. After that, Gohan disappeared in a flash. Planet Cereal. After receiving LX's message, Granola hurriedly left Planet Cereal. What he didn't know was that Maki and Oil, who were supposed to have left, had returned and were now lurking on Planet Cereal. Granola took his spaceship and sped toward the Heater family's base. He was filled with fury, and his eyes burned with intense hatred. "Hee Frisia, those damn Scions, finally, I can take my revenge personally," he muttered, his fists clenched so tightly that his teeth ground together, his body trembling with excitement. Granola was usually a rational person. But when it came to Frisia and the Scions, his hatred completely consumed him, driving him to the brink of madness. Soon, he arrived at the Heater family's base. After parking his spaceship, Granola flew directly to the Heater family's castle. "Hey, isn't that Granola? What's the rush?" A yellow-skinned alien blocked Granola's path. As mercenaries working for the Heater family, many of them disliked Granola. Soshiru was no exception. Granola's arrogance and difficulty in dealing with others, combined with his outstanding performance, had earned him the top spot on the most unpopular list. Granola didn't even glance at Soshiru and continued walking briskly. Angered by Granola's dismissive attitude, Soshiru quickly moved to block his path again. "Hey, got any good missions? How about we team up and tackle them together?" Granola frowned, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. He glared at Soshiru and coldly said, "Get out of my way." The cold, murderous look in Granola's eyes made Soshiru feel as if he had fallen into an icy abyss. He instinctively took 2 steps back, but his resentment toward Granola only deepened. "I don't mind selling your head to Elec," Granola added, pointing his hand at Soshiru's head, a deadly key flashing at his fingertips. Sweat poured down Soshiru's face. Granola's eyes made it clear that he wasn't joking. Soshiru's neck shrank, and he quickly backed off to the side, terrified. I was just kidding. Don't take it seriously." He wiped the sweat from his forehead, trying to smile awkwardly. Granola glanced at him, his expression cold and silent as the key at his fingertips dissipated. He lowered his hand, stepped forward, and continued into the castle. Granola soon reached the center of the castle, where he was met by Elec, the leader of the Heaters. Gas stood beside Elec, his cold eyes fixed on Granola. Granola glared back. The tension in the air grew palpable, as if the temperature had dropped. Elec broke the silence with a laugh. "Ha, Granola, you got here quickly. You truly are the strongest mercenary in our Heater family. Very impressive. That wraps up this part of What If Reborn is Gohan in Future Timeline. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. What If sign-in system in High School DxD will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if Gacha system in Modern Family World? What if Natsu has dual elements? What if Transmigrated in One Piece and becoming a Marine? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.